There we go. Thank you, Jesus. All right. All right. Hello and welcome. Glad that you guys are here. Thank you so much for your time. We are going to jump in. So today our webinar is called Name It to Tame It, and we'll be focusing on emotional awareness. And we'll be able to share a little bit more about why that's important as we go through. So first of all, I just want to introduce myself for those who don't know me well. My name is Genevieve Murphy. I'm the co-founder of Know My World, and I've been running Know My World since 2010, both in the United States and here in Taiwan. So thank you for being here. And my co-presenter is Kathy.
Hello. Hello, everybody. I'm Kathy. Yes, and I'm the president right now.
And Kathy is also a professor at
Mm,
Ekata.
yes.
Ekata. Thank you. All right. So, just briefly, Know My World is a education nonprofit, and we focus on social, emotional, and cultural learning. And we do that through student programs, teacher training, and in the past, we've done virtual cross-cultural exchanges and curriculum design and development. And so this is our model for our organization. And this is based off of CASTLE, which is a huge organization in the United States that was kind of the founding pioneers of social and emotional learning, and they've developed a framework around SEL with these five competencies. So that includes self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision making. And so all of our work aligns to this model. And today we'll be focusing in the first competency, which is self-awareness. So this webinar is going to focus on understanding how emotions work, learn to label emotions with clarity, gaining tools to support regulation a little bit, and then applying strategies at home and in the classroom. So we have a lot to cover. And we'll focus on approaches that are available and applicable by adults, parents, teachers, and children. So initially, SEL began as a school-wide initiative, and then over time, we've realized how valuable it is, not just for children, but also for adults. So there's a lot of adult SEL now, and then also how well it works with supporting parents with their relationships with their children. So it really is an applicable framework across all ages. So, for now, I invite you to type in the chat, or if you feel like unmuting and just sharing. Uh, I'm curious, which picture best shows how you're feeling right now? So you can just type a number, or if there's a different word that it's not in this picture, you're welcome to also type or say that as well. And the chat is located at the bottom toolbar. Or if you're a combination between some of them. Yeah, one or two. Okay. Good job. All right. So feel free to continue to type your responses in the chat. But yeah, so We have emotions that range from, the spectrum of happy and excited to dread to anger to worry. And, you know, emotions are energy in motion. And so throughout the day, we might feel different emotions at different times, and that's really okay. It's actually good to have that range of emotions. But it's also important that we're kind of tapped in and tuned into what we're feeling throughout the day as we transition through these emotions, um, so that we're a little bit more in tune with our body and with uh, what's happening in our nervous system and in our brain, because emotions can really have a huge impact in those areas. So, first, I just want to share briefly kind of the difference between emotions and feelings and moods because uh, they get intertwined, but there is a distinction between them. So sometimes that helps us to understand. And basically, the biggest difference is the duration of time. So when we have an emotion, this is a quick release of a chemical in our body, and this usually is only active for about 6 seconds. So the emotion is quite quick, but they can lead to the feelings. And so they make us feel things in our body, and then they start influencing our mind and our thoughts. And so they are like emotional mixes, combinations. So once they start mixing with our mind and our body, then that's when they start becoming more impactful. And this can last for several minutes. Sometimes you might see a quick outburst of an emotion, or it might last for several hours. And then if it extends past that, then it becomes a mood. And this is how we are feeling. It's kind of our mental state and physical and emotional state that can last for several days or even months. So that's the difference between these three aspects, but they're all related to how we're feeling and what's going on in our internal system. Um, so naming emotions is an easy first step to emotional intelligence. So EQ is what is our intelligence based on emotions. IQ is based on our intellect. CQ is based on our cultural understandings. So EQ, as we've learned in through research, is able to be developed and improved and increased over time. And so emotions and being able to name emotions is like the one of the first steps in the EQ journey. It's like the ABCs. And so it really is a foundational skill that's vital in order for us to be able to expand our personal awareness and our interactions with others. So I like to say that emotions are the spice of life because just like different spices have different flavors in our palate, emotions bring different experiences into our body and into our mind. Sometimes they can be spicy, sometimes salty, sometimes sour, and sometimes sweet, and a whole range in between. So, just kind of thinking about emotions in that way kind of helps us understand them a little bit more. And they help us to understand and classify the world around us. And by naming emotions, we're able to bridge the thoughts and the feelings. And again, remind ourselves that they're only temporary. I used to tell my kids that emotions are like a roller coaster, right? They come up and then they go down and then up and down. And it's okay. We kind of learn how to enjoy the ride, even when it's free falling down the slope of the roller coaster, and we get that, clench in our stomach and we're screaming, but at the same time, it still feels a little bit exhilarating, or it could be really challenging, but we know that eventually it's gonna plateau and it's gonna even back out, and then we'll be going back up again soon. So using metaphors or visualizations, especially when it comes to emotions, can help us understand them and manage them and keep that mindset that this is a temporary experience. And when we feel things that are difficult, knowing that labeling it, I am angry, I am sad, I am anxious, like this is a very, very critical first step. So knowing what is the emotion and how to label it gives us um, access to more information on how we can best manage it. So, why name it to tame it? Um, Again, emotions are signals that live in our body. As an educator for over 20 years, I've seen a lot of curriculum and I've worked with a lot of curriculum. And a lot of it fails to teach us about our bodies and about sensations in our body and about our physiology and about our minds and our mindsets and our neurology. And it's so critical. Like when you get to college, you can, or even high school, you can start taking like biology and things like that, but it's still different than really knowing and understand what's resonating in our body and how is that impacting us. And so by being able to learn and understand this aspect of our human experience, we're able to really manage ourselves and manage the experiences that seem to be catastrophes. We're able to shrink that down and be like, okay, even though this is really hard, it is still temporary. And through that, we're able to reduce overwhelm and anxiety. We can gain clarity. We can create actionable steps to process and move through. We can recognize that emotions are messengers. They're here to tell us information. And then through that, we're able to see what it is that our body or our heart or our mind is needing. And we're able to respond instead of react. So, a big part of emotions when we don't understand them is we become very reactionary. And that impacts our nervous system. And then it also impacts our relationships, both with ourselves and with others. So this really is a gateway to unraveling a lot of internal turmoil that we might be experiencing. And again, just knowing that emotions are messengers. So they're here to tell us information. For example, fear means we need protection. Anger means we need to set a boundary. And sadness is we're feeling a loss or we have some kind of need that's not being met. And so interpreting the emotions as information bits helps us again to process it in a more manageable and meaningful way. So um, the benefits of naming emotions across the gamut are for adults, we have greater self-awareness and improved emotional regulation. For parents, we're able to communicate better with our kids and have less conflicts and more connection. And similar for educators, we have stronger classroom management and increased student engagement. And for children, there's emotional expression and confidence and self-understanding. And so there's really a huge benefit to being able to recognize and name our emotions because it gives us the first step so that we can then start applying necessary communication strategies or regulation tools or coping strategies, things like that. All right. So before we move into the next section, are there any questions related to how or why um, naming emotions is important? You're also welcome to type any questions that you have in the chat as we go through. All right. Um, moving moving on. So identifying our emotions. Labeling our emotions is key. If you can name it, you can tame it. So this is a really important phrase, I guess, catchphrase. Um, but it does help us to remember that we're able to control our emotions. Our emotions don't have to control us. And there's a mindset shift that has to happen in order for that transition of power to happen, right? So the power of our emotions controlling who we are and what we're doing versus us controlling our emotions. And so this is where EQ comes into play and becomes very important so that we're able to make that transition in a really powerful and meaningful and permanent way, which then transforms our lives and how we experience a lot of these life ups and downs. So it's really, really meaningful and really important. So I'd like to start with a visualization exercise. Um, and so I invite you to relax wherever you are. If you feel comfortable closing your eyes, you're welcome to. If not, just lowering your gaze so that your body can, so that you can signal to your body that you're in a state of relaxation and calmness. And as I shared earlier, and will reiterate, is that emotions exist in our body. And so the more we're able to recognize the signals that are happening in our body through the emotions, that also helps us to be able to label them. So sensations could be something like a clenching of the stomach, or a tingling in the body, or a shortness of breath, or a headache, or a inability to speak, or there's lots of different sensations, right? So they are those subtle uh, feelings, like physical feelings that we have in our bodies. And our bodies communicate with us constantly. But unfortunately, we often live in our head and the thought loops that exist in our brains, and we disconnect or we are disconnected from our bodies and from those physical sensations that we're feeling. And so this is a way to remind us that it's really important to connect with our bodies and how we can do that. So as I read this short visualization, I invite you to notice what are the different sensations that you feel in your body related to the different parts of the story. All right, so feel free to again relax, close your eyes, or lower your gaze, and we'll begin. So I'm going to guide you through a series of images. Your job is to become aware of the sensations, the feelings, and the thoughts that are going on inside of you as I lead you through this exercise. Again, find a comfortable place to sit. And you can start by just noticing how the chair or the pillow or the cushion supports your body. And just feel how much you can settle into it. Notice your breathing and your overall sensation in your body. Notice your feelings and what's happening in your mind. Now, imagine that today is your birthday. Even though this should be a special day for you, you're sitting around at home feeling lonely. You don't want to be alone, so you decide to go to the movies. You start getting ready. Then you have a dreadful sinking feeling as you reach for your wallet and realize it's missing. Take time to notice the following. What emotions, sensations, and thoughts are you having at this moment in your body and in your mind? When and if you feel dread, where in your body do you feel it? What does it feel like? Common places for sensation could be the stomach, the chest, and the throat. Do you feel a tightening or sinking sensation? Perhaps a queasiness? Do you notice a temperature change in your hands? Do they feel sweaty, hot, or cold? Is there any place you feel unsteady or wobbly? Notice how these sensations change with time as you attend to them. Does the intensity increase or decrease? Does the tightening loosen? Does the temperature in your hands change as you settle? The thought comes to you, oh, maybe I put my wallet down in the other room. Imagine that you go in there, checking other places where you might have put it. You can't find it, and you begin to feel a little frantic. Again, focus your attention inward and notice your bodily sensations, your feelings, and your thoughts. Now you slow down a bit. Your thoughts get a little more clear, and you start methodically hunting for your wallet. Again, is it in the drawer? Maybe I put it there when I came in. Is it on the table? Maybe it's in the bathroom. As you're looking around, you're interrupted by the ring of the telephone. You pick up the receiver, and it's a friend of yours who tells you that you left your wallet at her house. You take a big sigh of relief. Feel it. Notice how you feel in your body and smile at your previous state of franticness. Your friend tells you that she's leaving shortly, but she'll wait if you come right now. You briskly walk to her house. Feel that in your legs as you're walking quickly. You knock on the door, and there's no answer. Huh. You knock a second time, and there's still no answer. You think that you must have missed her, and you begin to feel a little irritated. She said she'd wait. You came over as soon as you could. Where do you feel that sensation of irritability? What does it feel like? Take your time and notice the range of sensations, just as you did before. How did you experience the irritability? Where do you experience it? From the back of the house, you hear your friend's muffled voice telling you to come in. You open the door and it's really dark. You slowly find your way through the dark. Notice how it feels to fumble down the hall, how your body feels as you're moving through the darkness, trying to get to the house. You again call to your friend, but you're interrupted by a chorus of voices yelling, "Surprise!" Of course. What are you feeling now in your body and mind as you realize it's a surprise birthday party for you? And slowly begin to open your eyes and just recall some of the different sensations that you felt during those different emotional points from the story. And notice how those feelings felt in your body and in your mind when you were feeling frustrated or irritated or surprised and happy. So, through that exercise, hopefully, you can see how emotions can truly impact the physiology of our body and the mindset in our brains. If you have any thoughts or feedback, feel free to type it in the comments as we continue with our webinar. All right, so an introduction to emotions. Of course, we all know emotions exist, um, but being able to really know the expansion of those emotions and the different layers and levels of them is important. So we have six primary emotions based on the Paul Ekman model, and he identified joy, sadness, anger, fear, disgust, and surprise as our primary emotions. Just like we have primary colors, we also have primary emotions. And just like when you blend those colors, you can make new colors or lighter or darker versions of the color. And so it's the same with emotions. You might recognize these characters, these fun characters from the movie Inside Out, which is a great portrayal of emotions for kids and adults. And then there's another model that identified eight primary emotions. So Robert Plucknick added trust and anticipation to the model as to their model. So regardless, we know that there's between 6 to 8 primary emotions. And that's a great starting point. So if you're starting for yourself with labeling emotions or you're working with kids on labeling emotions, starting small and then being able to expand is really important. So this is the emotion wheel, and in this you're able to see that from the 8 basic emotions radiating out towards the edges, they kind of expand the intensity of these core emotions. So if you feel irritation, it's a milder form of anger. If you feel ecstatic, that's a stronger sensation of joy. If you're feeling boredom, that's a lighter experience of disgust, whereas loathing is a more intense one. And so we can kind of see how knowing these core emotions, we can understand a wider range of emotions. And again, this can really help with kids and with adults. So once you get through the core emotions, then you can expand the wheel a little bit more to include some of the outer rings of the emotions and these deeper feelings. And then that becomes important because you're able to really pinpoint with clarity. Like there's a difference between how I need to respond to an irate anger versus a mild irritation. So knowing the range of the emotion helps us with managing it as well. And in fact, if you were to really expand that wheel to all of the different emotion possibilities, there's over 34,000. This wheel pictured here has 102, which for today is plenty. But it really does help us to see like, oh, wow, okay, how do these rays of emotions kind of expand, and to like the caliber of the minuteness of each one. So we're going to try to use the emotion wheel. Hopefully you guys are able to participate a little bit. Um, because I'd love to see your responses. So we're going to use the emotion wheel through some of these scenarios. So as I share the scenario, you'll be able to type in the comments which emotion you think that it is. Um, so again, this just helps us, using the emotion wheel helps us to understand and express how we're feeling and be able to respond thoughtfully instead of impulsively. So this is why using emotion wheels is helpful. Um, all right. So in the scenario as an adult, if you received an unexpected critical feedback at work, what do you feel? Which emotion? You're also welcome to unmute if you just want to say it. Don't be shy. All right. I'll we can go through these a little bit quickly then. So if you're receiving unexpected critical feedback, then maybe you might feel angry or you might feel irritable or you might feel annoyed, like, oh, why? You might also feel insecure, under fear, right? Because maybe your critical mind might worry that you're going to get fired. You might feel nervous for the same reason. You might feel shame, like you made a mistake and that's terrible. So each person might have a different reaction to receiving critical feedback, but knowing how you respond is what's important. In the scenario as a parent, if your child refuses to listen after multiple requests, then you might feel exacerbated, or you might feel really frustrated or annoyed. And that might feel like a tightness in your stomach or like clenching in your chest, right? And if we're not aware of that, then that's going to lead to this steam coming out of our ears and us probably yelling at our child, who, as a 3-year-old, really doesn't understand what you're saying or why it's important because they're not cognitively developed yet. And so how from, it's about perspective. And so knowing how to notice the sensations and helps us to regulate those emotions before we say or do something that we might regret. And the same with classrooms and with teachers. Um, I've heard many teachers using classroom management skills that involve a lot of yelling at the students, or belittling students, or embarrassing students, or physically harming students. And that's not okay. We're supposed to be fostering their development and their knowledge. And yes, it can be frustrating sometimes being a teacher when students are not following directions, but yelling at them because we feel enraged or we feel overwhelmed or we feel frustrated uh, is not conducive to being an effective teacher or educator. And then as a child, if you're left out while others are playing, then you're going to feel a sense of loneliness or isolation or insecurity or sadness, right? And so it can be really challenging when we're little and we have these big feelings in these little bodies to know how we're managing them. So knowing how to label them again is the first part. Um, and by labeling them, we're able to really help us to stop emotional spirals or helps us to develop a broader emotional vocabulary so that we can identify that root cause. Um, it provides emotional regulation so that we can stay calm and collected and centered even in stressful situations. You know, we can ride that wave of turmoil a little bit easier. It opens up communication tools so that we can have more effective conversations and communication when we're trying to resolve conflict. It develops empathy so that we can connect with others in a more gentle way. And with kids, it provides a wide range of feelings and that vocabulary, those words, so that they're able to identify and work with them. All right. And again, why is this important? Well, because emotions live in the body. And so we need to know what type of coping skill or strategy or what kind of solution we need to use to move that emotion through our body. So anger might require movement. We need to go for a run. Anxiety might require some deep breathing. Sadness might require connection with someone who can listen and support us. So different emotions have different needs for resolve. And so then we're able to really help resolve them more effectively. So that's one thing. We know how to kind of bring a solution to the emotion. And the second thing is that they affect our nervous system. And there's a whole, I have lots of other trainings around the nervous system because it's such a vital part of our body, of our wellness, and how it impacts us. So, knowing how emotions impact us with a fight, flight, or freeze response can help us again to overcome a lot of overwhelm. And eventually, it can even help us to cure a lot of potential chronic illnesses that we're experiencing or mental overwhelm. Um, and so it really is hugely, hugely beneficial on a mental, emotional, and physical level. All right, so recognizing our emotional patterns. Um, what causes reactive behavior? There's a lot of different experiences that we're going to have each day. And so if we're not aware of our emotions and not able to label them, then we can become very reactive. And reactions are based on fear and uncertainty or expectations that we had not being met, disappointment in ourselves or others, that feeling of shame, or their conditioned responses from or modeled behavior. So we saw our parents being very reactionary or our teachers being very reactionary. So we think that this is normal. And so we just kind of repeat that pattern because that's what's ingrained in us. And it's actually not helpful to have these reactionary responses because it, again, it impacts our body, our nervous system, our mental health, and our relationships and communication with others. So by recognizing our triggers, which is the things that cause the emotional response, and even learning about our blind spots by asking others, like, what do you see, or what do you feel, or what do you experience? That brings us more information. And the emotions are what drive our reactions. And so therefore, they're also the pathway out. Um, by acknowledging our frequently reoccurring reactions and behaviors, then we can start to unwind those or shift or change that pattern. But awareness and understanding is the first step. So, when you feel a big emotion, what is your typical pattern of response? Is it yelling, crying, avoiding, denying, blaming? These are all pretty typical response patterns um, that can overwhelm us, that create damage between relationships, that can cause us to shut down. Um, and it can also lead to this spiral of emotional patterns. Then we later feel regret or we develop self-doubt. We have broken relationships. That internal critic becomes like a rampant in our mind. Our lack of self-confidence. We feel shame. And so we just kind of go into that freeze or shutdown space in our nervous system where we're like, we stop trying, we stop thinking people care. So we stop caring, those kinds of things. So this really has like a linking connection in a big part of our lives. And understanding that our thoughts control our feelings, which then control our actions. And so understanding this cycle, this loop, because if we're not cognizant of this loop, then it can become overwhelming and an unhealthy pattern. And the more we repeat this pattern, the deeper that groove becomes in our brain, and it becomes our go-to response, which is shut down, or if you have a fight, you leave, or instead of resolving it, or an inability to communicate effectively, or shouldering more shame or more self-doubt, right? And that becomes eventually things that impact our health, our physical health, and our mental health. So really understanding this pattern and then how we can break that pattern. So an example of this cycle or loop could be, you're in an at work and someone says something and your initial thought is they don't respect me. Well, because you feel disrespected, that's going to create the emotion of anger. And because you now are angry, you're going to be reacting harshly. Maybe you'll yell at the person, or you'll treat them very rudely, or you'll ignore them, or whatever it might be, right? And so, um, knowing how we can stop this loop is really critical. And so it's through this process of identifying the feeling. Oh, I'm feeling angry. What is the sensation? I'm feeling like a rush of blood through my body and like a tightness in my chest. What am I thinking? They don't respect me. How dare they not respect me? What is my energy level? Well, I'm getting really like amped up with this frustration and this anger, and I'm starting to feel like a little bit boiling over. Um, so again, reflecting, okay, how real is this? Because our thoughts lie to us all the time. Our brain is a pathological liar. It tries to keep us safe by lying to us. It's a whole other webinar, but just knowing and understanding that this is the pattern helps us to shift from, again, the emotions controlling us to us becoming the controller. So we consciously observe what is triggering us. We identify the emotions, thoughts, and behaviors. We question, where is this coming from? Why am I feeling this way? And then we actively seek to apply alternative responses. So this is a very short process of how we can start to shift that control mechanism. And so just by reframing your thought, the same experience that you're having, but if you choose to think, maybe they're struggling instead of they're disrespecting me, um, it changes your emotion and then therefore your behavior. So you're able to respond more with empathy or compassion. If you think that someone's struggling, we tap into different sensations in our body, and different emotion point. And then we're able to have more of a calm response. So instead of yelling at them, we might say, "Hey, are you okay? You seem a little bit off today. Things don't seem quite right. What's going on?" And then that opens up communication, and they're able to say, "Oh my gosh, thank you for asking. I've been dealing with so much stuff, blah, blah, blah." Right? So instead, if they're already dealing with a lot of stuff, you've misinterpreted their response as something personal and you're yelling at them. That's just adding more unnecessary stress to their already stressful life. So it really is this understanding of how can I shift and reframe the experience from a more calm centered space. Um, so there's some tools that can be used for this. So journaling is always a huge helpful tool. So it's noticing what is the thought, what's the negative thought, what's the positive thought that I want, and then what's the required behavior to change. And that same process with feelings and then with the actions. So if you can kind of journal, you can see the patterns and then you can see how you want to shift them, and then you can move forward in that way, which is how you can change how you're reacting and responding. Other things you can do are breathing exercises. So this helps to calm the body and the mind. You can do body scans. So just really noticing different parts of your body and relaxing them. This helps to decrease the stress levels that you're carrying. And then again, mindful observation. The more we can be mindful, which is being present in the moment, um, the more we can stop those reactionary responses. Breathing techniques, we hear a lot about breathing and that it's important to calm the body and things like that, but there's more to it than meditation or mindfulness. It really is a physiological tool that can help us in our nervous system. So when we breathe deeply, we're sending signals, we're communicating via the vagus nerve from our body to our brain that we're safe and that we're okay. And once the brain knows that we're safe, then it can shift from this active sympathetic nervous system, which is the fight or flight response, to part of the parasympathetic system that is focused more on rest and digest. But the body and the brain isn't going to calm down until the body has sent signals to it that it's safe and that it's okay. And so one way to do this is to elongate the exhale of our breath. So when we inhale, for example, for the count of four, and then we hold for the count of four. But when we exhale, if we exhale for 6 or 8 counts, ideally you want to double the time of the inhalation. So 8 would be ideal. That activates the parasympathetic nervous system and that sends that signal. And that truly allows the body to start to relax a lot more because it knows it's safe. So there's actual science behind the breathing techniques. So lastly, some of us here are teachers, and so, how can we support emotions in the classroom? How can we use emotion wheels to help our students? Um, and so you can use this tool, and then you can help teach your parents, or you can have it in your own classroom. If you're a counselor in a class in a school, you can also use it that way. So when kids are developing, they don't have big vocabulary. That's why starting with the simple emotion wheel is a great starting point in there when they're kindergarten, first grade. And then as they get older, you can expand the vocabulary. But giving them the words is really important. So then they can express those words. And so these are a couple of kid-friendly available resources. So if you want the more expansive wheel, there's a QR code to that resource. By joining this webinar later, we will be sending you our Know My World wheel, which is the one on the left, along with this check-in form. So giving students an opportunity to each day check in with themselves and with you emotionally helps to build that vocabulary and build that awareness and understanding. So a very simple check-in sheet. This can be used with little ones or with older kids. They just circle. right? And then if they're too little, they can just draw pictures in the boxes, and if they're older, then they can write sentences. But this is a emotion check-in sheet, which you can give them each day or at least once a week, to kind of check in and see how they're doing emotionally. And if they're saying that they're feeling angry or lonely or sad, then try to connect with them personally to explore that emotion with them a little bit more, or have them uh, take their sheet to the school counselor so that that counselor can work with them. Because it's really important if kids are identifying the emotion, then the next step for us as adults is to help them understand how to process those emotions effectively. There's also a lot of kid-friendly breathing tools and techniques on YouTube. So the candle breath is where they just kind of hold up their finger as if it's a birthday candle, and then they take a deep breath in, and then they slowly exhale, breathing out the flame, that imaginary flame of the candle. So that's one, but there's hundreds of really helpful breathing tools and techniques. Doing role play activities. This could be an icebreaker. This could be something you do if you have morning meetings, or if you're during literacy, if you're reading books about emotions. So have them role play or act out the different emotions, because this helps them understand, like from a kid's perspective, what's the emotion and when might I feel this? You know, if my brother changes the channel while I'm watching a TV show, that's going to make me feel angry. If the kids are laughing at me or not including me, that's going to make me feel lonely. If I can't find my mom in a store, that's going to make me feel worried or scared. If I see my grandma and I haven't seen her for a long time and she gives me a big hug, that's going to make me feel loved. So just giving them opportunities to explore the emotions, not just through worksheets, but through actual acting things out. Kids really love to play, so it's important. You can have a calm corner in your classroom. This is really important, where you have like a timer and you teach your students how to use the calm corner. It's not just go there and play. But you set a timer and there's things that they can play with, or use to write or color, or um, use the motion wheel, or sometimes you have tactile toys that they can play, like a fidget spinner or clay, things that kind of helps them to move the sensations of the emotion through their body, or be able to draw what's happening or write about what's happening. So calm corners are really important, and you teach them it's only 2 or 3 minutes, and then they go back to their seat and they continue working. And then the last thing is just starting your class with something called a mindful minute. 1 minute, right? If you're a teacher and you're busy, you're overwhelmed, there's already a lot. Just having the kids, when they come in at the beginning of each class, like take a few deep breaths. And it only takes a minute. So you're not using too much of your time, and you're able to help them to settle their minds, settle their bodies. And with that, they're able to focus better when they're in a more of a calm state. Um, so yeah, those are some quick tools, suggestions for teachers and for parents, and also for adults. So you can use any of those techniques as well for yourself. So as we wrap up for today, we have the upcoming events. So we're excited. We're going to be offering our SEL Basics training course, which is a 3-hour training introducing SEL in a little bit more depth, and also how SEL relates to all of us, no matter our age. So an open uh, this is an open training for anybody. And it will go into a little bit more of the understanding of the framework, and also more, how does this apply to me? Why is SEL important for me? So especially if you're a parent or a teacher and you want to teach SEL, you first have to have that personal awareness and connection to it. So this will take place at National Taiwan University of Science and Technology. It will be in the afternoon between 1 to 4. It's free for members and it's 2000 for non-members. And the date will be in May, but we're still confirming which date with the university, so which room they have available for us. And so we'll send updates about this training in our official line group. So if you're not in our line group yet, please scan this QR code and uh, join us, join the group so that you can get the updates. All right. Um, if you're willing to turn on your uh, camera just briefly, we can take a quick group photo. I'm also just gonna use this so I know who to send the resources to. Um, all right. Thank you. Great. Awesome. Hi. So good to see you. Thanks, Faith and Percy. Great. All right. So I'm going to take a quick photo. Thanks, Vanessa. All right. All right. We're gonna count two, three. Say cheese. One, one, two. Faith, I can't see you. There we go. Ah, there we go. Okay. Michelle, you want to join us? Oh, perfect. Amazing. All right. Thanks so much, guys. Let's count. One, two, three, cheese. All right. I love that. All right, one more. Hang on one second. Kathy, do the balloons again. One, two, three. Ah, no balloons. There you go. Amazing. So cool, so cool. All right. I really appreciate your
Hey, that's
time.
AI.
Oh, that's
When I had
AI.
this gesture, you will have
Oh, it
balloons.
automatically did it.
Yeah, look,
So
only
cool.
when you do this.
Oh, so it's an automatic automatic one. Cool, cool, cool. Um, so fun.
Lisa's trying out, see if that worked for her.
Yeah. Oh, now you've got confetti. You can also do the heart sometimes. That'll yeah, it'll send our hearts out.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah,
I think if you
that's
do
so
this one,
nice.
it
Next time,
also
yeah, that's a
yeah.
balloon, I think.
Oh, that's the balloons. That's
Yeah,
right.
this is the balloon, yes. Oh, yeah.
Yay.
When you have
Fun.
two, then yeah.
Fun with
Oh, fun.
AI. We'll have AI things too. All right. So if you are interested in uh, joining us as a member, if you're not a member yet, please let me know. Charisma, I saw on your response that you're interested, so I will send you our registration form. And yeah, as a member, you'll be able to join our training for free, which is this upcoming one anyway, so pretty exciting. Um, yeah, any thoughts or feedback before we end our session for today?
Yes.
Kathy's like, any more reactions? Come on. I thought the thumbs came up too, but I guess not. All right.
Yeah.
No worries. I'll be sending you a PDF file of those two resources, the motion wheel and the check-in chart. And yeah, we'll be sharing more updates soon. Thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your weekend. All right.
Thank you. Thank you, Jen.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Kathy. Thank you.
You're
Bye-bye.
Thank
welcome.
you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And I'm gonna end. All right. Bye-bye.